Your tracker sends an alert saying a clinical trial shipment is getting too warm. Great. What happens next? Who receives that alert? Can they identify exactly which shipment it relates to? Can they locate it? Can somebody contact the courier? Does the courier have an approved action available? And critically, is there still enough time to make a difference? If you cannot answer those questions, buying a real time tracker may not have solved your cold chain problem. It may simply have allowed you to watch it happen live. I am Matthew Holland from Strategic Tracking. There is a tendency to frame pharmaceutical temperature monitoring as a technology choice, data logger or real time tracker. But that misses the more important question. A monitoring system has four jobs: record what is happening, detect something meaningful, help somebody make a decision, and, where possible, enable an action. The regulatory position is more nuanced than everything must be real time. The monitoring approach should reflect the product and transport conditions. Consider a predictable, validated clinical supply lane. The packaging has adequate thermal duration. Transit is short. The carrier is reliable. The product has an understood stability profile. And if something goes wrong halfway through the journey, there is very little anybody can realistically do before arrival. A calibrated data logger can still provide exactly what the operation needs: a reliable temperature history that can be reviewed at destination. That is not inferior monitoring simply because it is not connected. It is monitoring matched to the operational requirement. Real time monitoring becomes more interesting when earlier knowledge changes the available decision. Perhaps the shipment is difficult to replace. Perhaps its thermal reserve is limited. Perhaps the route contains unpredictable customs or airline handoffs. Perhaps the receiving site needs time to react, or perhaps a courier can physically intervene if alerted early enough. Now connectivity has an operational purpose. But notice what we are buying. It is not simply more data. We are buying time to make a decision. Imagine an investigational medicinal product traveling from a European critical supply depot to a research site. The qualified packaging has been designed for 72 hours and the planned journey is 24. The shipment reaches the destination country, but then stops moving. The courier milestone still says in transit. A connected monitor, however, shows that the parcel has remained at approximately the same location for 8 hours. The internal temperature is still acceptable, but it is gradually rising. This is where good real time monitoring becomes more than a red alarm. A useful system combines location, dwell time, temperature trend, and the remaining intervention window. Someone can investigate the customs hold before waiting for the temperature threshold itself to be breached. A practical alert workflow, therefore, looks something like this: detect, something meaningful has changed. Verify, is the reading credible? Which shipment is involved? Where is it? Escalate, send it to the person who owns the operational decision, not 50 people on an email distribution list. Act, contact the courier, investigate the delay, arrange approved controlled storage, prepare the receiving site, start replacement planning, whatever the authorized procedure allows. And finally, record. Capture what happened, who responded, and what decision was made. The tracker is only the first component in that chain. There is another misconception worth addressing. Connected does not mean continuously connected. Aircraft holds, insulated packaging, warehouses, basements, and remote locations can all interrupt communications. GNSS location can also become difficult indoors. A properly selected device should therefore be evaluated for what happens when connectivity disappears. Does it continue recording locally? How much data can it retain? When communications return, does it reconcile the missing readings? And can the platform distinguish a communications gap from an actual monitoring failure? These are pilot questions, not brochure questions. This is why blanket real-time monitoring is often the wrong starting point. Think instead in terms of monitoring intensity. A stable product on a predictable, validated lane with generous packaging duration and little opportunity for intervention may need reliable retrospective evidence. Increase the product value, lane uncertainty or consequences of delay, and more frequent visibility can become valuable. At the extreme, a time-critical or potentially irreplaceable shipment with multiple handoffs may justify location, temperature, chain of custody events, and an actively managed escalation process. The device follows the risk, not the other way around. So instead of writing a requirement that starts, we require a GPS temperature tracker reporting every 5 minutes, start with the operational requirement. What condition are we trying to detect? How early do we need to know? Who owns the alert? How quickly must they respond? What actions are actually permitted? How much connectivity can we realistically expect? What happens when communications disappear? And what evidence must remain available after delivery? Only then should reporting frequency, battery size, cellular technology, positioning method, and platform features enter the discussion. Here is the simple test I would use before paying for real-time monitoring. 1. What could go wrong? 2. How early could the technology detect it? 3. Who receives the information? 4. What can that person actually do? And 5. Is there enough time left for that action to matter? If questions 3, 4, and 5 do not have convincing answers, adding more live data may not materially reduce shipment risk. So do not start with the tracker. Start with the product, the lane, the failure modes, and the operational response. Then decide how much visibility the shipment actually needs. That is the difference between buying tracking technology and designing a monitoring system. Strategic tracking provides independent support with technology selection, supplier evaluation, and pilot design. Do not start with the tracker. Start with the risk. You will find the full guide at strategictracking.com.